Well, thanks for that introduction, Les. 37 years, yeah, it seems a long time. Don't look old enough to have that amount of time in the industry, but I have. Human factors, yeah. I had a bit of a human error situation last night myself. Woke up this morning. I was actually offshore yesterday in BP Andrew and got home very late last night. I'm kind of tired, went to my bed, got up this morning, looked out the window, left my parking light on. Instead of switching my lights off and switched them to park, I thought, shit. My wife is away at her mother's. I have no other car to get here. I thought, what's the consequences of this being a flat battery? I thought, well, no big deal, I'll phone Les, he can handle it. I'll just go to work later. So, right, we got a few. I'm just going to do an introduction here. Les says I sit in the SCLT and I co-chair the Human Factors Steering Group. Certainly not my area of expertise, but I've got a few people here who are very much expert in that field. Have you ever been at a meeting with a dozen human factors experts for a couple of hours? It's an experience, I can tell you. You kind of come out of there with your head spinning. So we've got Neil Clark. He's going to do Neil is an ex-pilot and he's a human factors expert, subject matter expert, and he works for Nexon, and he's been a great influence on the work that's been done to date. We've got Catherine Mearns here from the Health and Safety Executive, and Catherine's heading up the Health and Safety Executive strategy on human factors. That kind of shows we're kind of joined up in that front. And we've got Tom Gilchrist here who's going to cover a bit of an update on perspective in human factors and an update on some of the next steps developments. So, right, just covered that. First steps. Everybody seen this? Hands up. Who's not seen it? Yeah. Yeah. This was launched in 2010, and it was a fairly simplistic approach of trying to get organisations to understand what human factors are all about. Been too much talk about behavioural safety. Human factors is far broader than that. So the simplicity was really around people, plant, process. 15 topics introduced. Try to get some granularity into just exactly what is human factors in the industry today. I mean, one of the start things, when we talk about plant equipment, human factors and design, if you reflect on the Texas City, I'm pretty sure most of us in the room are fairly familiar with the incident in Texas City where 15 people lost their lives. And really what was a stark event in that was there was an instrument there that had no executive action that relied on human intervention. Had that plant been designed appropriately, that incident would never have happened. It was far more complex than that, without a shadow of a doubt. But it just shows you how, if you get the design right, then you'll keep people safe. Mm-hmm. So, we've done a bit of a straw poll to see how many companies actually are working these issues. And although there's quite a high degree of knowledge around the subject of human factors, only about 50% responses said people are actually doing anything about it, organisations are actually doing anything about it. So again, this kind of document, in the past in step change, there's been a lot of fantastic documents like this produced in many subjects, and they kind of become shelfware. They can end up on a shelf somewhere. So the human factors work group has been kind of looking at, well, how do we take that out of shelfware and bring it to life in the industry? So, as I say, this theme's been simplicity. So what's kind of next? There's I mentioned there about other groups working on human factors. The Well Life Cycle Practices Forum that was set up post-Macondo, they're actually looking at human factors as well. The HSE is looking at human factors. So we've been kind of trying to join these various organisations up to have a common approach. So there is some case studies. The Practices Forum was going to come along today to talk about some of these case studies, but probably just didn't have the time to go into that. These are available on the website. So it's just this is just a kind of overview of other other parties are working this subject matter. Step change is right in the heart of it. So want to make sure things are joined up. You've all seen probably the joined up thinking program that's been rolled out. Human factors just rolls right through every video that you'll see and all the subject matter there. So moving on, what's next? Well, there's been a lot of work in the development of an assessment tool, and it ain't a survey. It's really something that organisations, assets can use for measuring themselves, assessing their own sort of performance in this arena. There's been a lot of work in developing that. We had actually hoped to showcase this today, but quite frankly, as I said, when you get in the room with a dozen human factor experts and start to tease out some of the questions you have to ask to get the answers, it's complex. So not quite ready yet, we're just about to launch it. But the output from this tool, if the industry uses it, will be an input to planning and improvement. So what the expectation is, if organisations embrace this, simply go through the process and assess themselves against the 15 topics identified, understand the gaps in their organisation, then they can clearly think about, well, what actions they can take to close the gaps. Tom is going to talk a little bit more about that in detail, give you a few screenshots and a bit of the progress. We're hoping to kick off a pilot study shortly, probably into September. The tool should be fully available by the end of this month. So that's all from me. That's just a kind of brief introduction. I'll hand over to Neil.